Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. So tonight's webinar is live Forex market review. So let's get into it. If everybody can read through the disclaimer before we move along. For those on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to join us in the live webinar. I've given you the link. For those in the webinar, if you have a question, use the chat box or the Q&A box. I've got both open. So just take the time just to read through the disclaimer before we move along, everybody. Right, let's move along. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities. I'm a full-time Forex trader. I've been trading in the Forex market now for almost 20 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me about the webinars, my email's on screen there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. If you want to connect me through the week at our website, go to acy.com, go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, go to at ACY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, my Linktree page is there. You'll get all my links on that page. When you get access to the charts that I'm using in MT4, just contact Nathan.bray. His email's on screen. For those in the webinar, I'll put his details in the chat. He'll only be too happy to set you up if you want to use my charts. There we go. All right, so let's get into the news for the remainder of the week before we get into the charts. All right, so time showing my time, Queensland time. I'm just going to discuss the red items. So 10:30 p.m. tonight, we have the US unemployment claims. And worth noting that ADP non-farm employment change was up yesterday, and job openings was up by 1 million. So it can maybe all bodes well for good job figures on Friday. But that said, coming up this evening, we have the unemployment claims figures. Will that be a lower figure? Then moving into midnight, into Friday, we have the US ISM service PMI data coming out. And then the bigger one for the week, 10:30 p.m. on Friday, we have the average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and unemployment rate. So it's going to be volatile for sure there. Could be volatile this evening as well. These two items can definitely drive the market this evening, but of course, it'll be volatile tomorrow. We've been seeing US dollar strength coming in this week. We've almost broken above last month's high. Last time I looked. So we'll start with the dollar index. So we go to the monthly charts, but we have broken above last month's high here, according to the monthly chart. So what that's definitely confirming is we have found support on support. So are we going to be seeing long term, as we head towards Christmas, a movement back up to, roughly the top of the range here? So if we see that, we're going to see pairs to the US dollar moving down. Now, of course, we may just have a month up and then we have a month down and so on and so forth. But at the moment, quite clearly, we're seeing their support is most definitely coming in there. So the day chart is just showing you that we've moved to a higher top here from this sideways movement. Now, at some point, we'll have a pullback. So if you haven't got, say, short on a pair versus the US dollar, this will probably have some form of pullback at some point. So allow it to pull back and then look for a rally to finish on pairs to the US dollar for then, this to move up and the pairs to the US dollar move down. So this to put in a higher bottom, the pairs to the US dollar to put in a lower top. I think is probably the go that we should be looking out for over the next week. Now, the S&P 500 has been selling off. The war going on in the Middle East, I think they call it Middle East, Iran, firing 200 missiles at Israel, certainly created a little bit of a sell-off. We're just back down to support though here. This was the all-time high that was before we moved higher. So 56.69. We did reject there yesterday. So that is a level of support at the moment. So that's where traders could be fishing for support on a lower time frame. So if we do come back down to 56.69 today and hold, then that's the area to watch to get long. If we see a clear break below there, then you want to look for that level to become resistance. So that's going to be the line in the sand. Does this level once more hold to move back up, or do we see a clear break to be resistance to move down? All right, so that's the level to watch. This little pullback that we're having on the day chart at the moment isn't changing the long-term trend. The weekly trend is up here. We're just having a week down. All right. So a very minor downtrend on the daily there, which could most definitely stop at this top or these tops here. All right, euro dollar. Nowhere near as negative. You know, if I just jump into the pound dollar today, pound dollar's smoking down the chart today. So euro's nowhere near flying down, but we are fractionally down for the day. So today chart, coming down towards where we'd anticipate support to be in the short term. Let's go to the weekly chart. Just want to see, got two lines there. Not quite sure where that line's coming from. That's this high over here. That high may be a little bit hidden now, so I'm just going to take it off. So as we're heading down, there's actually this low here, 110.26, which we've traded down to today. And we're having a significant sell-off from the 112 level. Said earlier in the week, we're probably heading down towards 110. And also, we're back below the 79% level, so the 79% level of this range on the weekly chart. So there is the question that we may be failing up here for a long-term, bit of a weekly double top up here for a long-term, move back down this way. So don't want to be selling at the bottom of the immediate move, but might see a bit of a bounce down here at 110.26 down to 110.08, 110.01 down to the figure. Or we might see a clear break below there through the course of the week when we get the job figures from the US. So we might see some bit of support coming here ahead of tomorrow because we have traded quite aggressively down this week. We're a bit overextending for the weekly candle. So we may need a little bit of a reprise to the upside. Our most immediate 4-hour range is here. So if you want to get short, look to this range at the moment. Now the 79% level overlaps with this area of broken support here at 110.68. Overlaps with the 79% level. So that would be an ideal level to look at. So we'll go to the 15. All right, so that range is from yesterday's high down to the current low of today. So if the market can be user-friendly, that would be the area that would look, that would be the sell area today. Now, if you're more bullish, while we've hit support at 110.26, we may revisit that level later in the day. If we revisit that level later in the day and once more hold, this is, if you're bullish, this is the buy level down here at the moment, 110.26. All right, two levels there to watch, depending on which way you want to trade. But we're definitely seeing US dollar strength. So in my mind, that means I want to look to sell a rally. So back up here at 79% level and 110.68 resistance, okay? Euro yen. Now, I did say on Tuesday, this is the 4-hour chart, I said watch for the 79% retracement. in this area, which has come to fruition. And then we've obviously moved up. So weekly charts, looks like we've had a down week, and then we're going to come up and maybe start to see a continuation up and through here. It's not at a great level at the moment. We're trading into weekly resistance, so it's not the greatest area just to jump in and buy. Trying to buy a dip is the key. I did offer you a dip earlier in the week, but we can't go back to that dip now. You can only trade what you're seeing at the moment or wait for a good opportunity. So day trend here is higher top to now a higher bottom. And if we move to the 4-hour chart, we're at the top of the move on the 4-hour upward move. We want to see a pullback for the next continuation. So we've pulled back to that 79% level, held. We're at almost the 162 extension and weekly resistance here. I would expect now this to pull back before further moving up. So trend is up. I would monitor the 4-hour range for a pullback and look to buy the next dip at 62 to 79% area. Okay, I'm not going to buy up here because we're in the profit taking phase. So you want to allow price to pull back and then get ready for the next upward move. All right, euro pounds. Big move up today with the pound getting slaughtered versus the US dollar. Now on the day chart, that's the most significant range that's been forming over the last 3 to 4 weeks. So we're moving back above the weekly resistance area at the moment. And assuming that this is just a rally, then I would be looking at the 79% level 84.30 to see what happens at that area on a lower time frame if we get there, with the expectation that maybe this is, down, rally, down. So it's down, rally. Do we start to hold here on a lower time frame to move down? Okay. All right. Pound dollar. Now the weekly chart, we fell at this 79% level. As I said the other day, I got short up there at 134 when I saw price move back below that 79% level and then came back up for a rally. And I didn't know if it was going to fail there. I was just managing my risk in terms of taking my trade. I sold it at 134 with a 100 pip stop, thinking that of this major range, we could potentially top out here. I don't know if this is the final top, but it could be, and we could be long term moving back down this range. Day charts turned down. We're very overextended today. We're just moving back below this 131.42 top. Still actually in an uptrend on the weekly chart, so we could actually not break this low at 13001 and put in a higher bottom at some point on the weekly chart. So it is coming down very aggressive at the moment. Something spooked the pound dollar, or an entity has decided that if they were long, they don't want to be long anymore. A lot of selling's been going on today. So that's the weekly high bottom there at 1,301. Breaking that low isn't going to be good for the market. So we have a weekly high here and a weekly low there. So 130.44 down to 130.01. I would expect maybe we get a bounce down there just because of the nature of a weekly top and a weekly bottom. We could find support. This is the weekly range. Weekly trend is going to remain up. We're coming down to the 79% level here. So there is the possibility that we bottom down here. I'll have to wait and see what price action does. But at the moment, the most immediate day chart trend is down. you're going to see that the 4-hour chart is down. Big 4-hour candle down there. I'd expect at some point this isn't where you want to sell, because we're at the very low of the move at the moment. You want to, if you want to get short, you need to monitor a rally. Don't know where that can come at the moment. Just breaking below 134, 131.42. That could be just resistance today to further move down if we get just a little bit of a rally today. But in a perfect world, I would, if I'm not already short, which I am, but if I wasn't, I'd have to monitor for an appropriate rally to the 62.79 area, where we often rally back to. Look for a failure there, and then look to sell for the next move down. Now, whether or not price will do that, it's just a patience game. When we're at the bottom of the move, you want to try and sell a rally. So just want to drop down to the 15. Whilst 131.42 could act as resistance coming back up here, we're so far down in today's range, I would need to see a much nicer rally. So I would need to assess price action as to where I would want to sell a rally at the moment. Just from the 4-hour range, yes, the 62.79 zone, but I don't know if we can get up into that area. And there's a nice overlap at 132.66, which is weekly old high over here. So if we move back up to that level over the next 24 to 48 hours of trading, so today, tomorrow, even into Monday, getting back up to 132.66 would be a good level to watch for failure. I just have to monitor to see where price will give you a rally. It's very difficult just to trade now after that big drop. Okay, pound yen, it's a little bit contrary to what the other yen pairs are doing, because it's had quite a strong movement back down today. But as I was showing on Tuesday, I said watch this area for support. Got a little bit lower than the area, but ultimately the 79% level held. We've been up beyond the 127 extension. So now I would monitor the next range. On the 4-hour chart for price to come back to the 62.79 zone, and then look for a continuation move back up. All right. Like I was saying on the euro yen. All right, Aussie yen. It's going to be a similar story. This is where I was saying on the 4-hour chart, look for your entry on Tuesday. We're up at we've almost been to the 162 extension now. We've actually traded above some resistance at the moment. Day chart showing you now high bottoms and tops moving up. So you now want to look for the next movement down. Look to buy a dip. We could just come back to this old top now at 99.85. But moving back down to the 4-hour chart. There's the most immediate range that we've just been moving up within. So even though support could come in at this high, we could actually trade below there and then false break below and move back above. So that's 99.85. We could trade below there, come into the 62.79% level, and then reject and move back above. And I might need to adjust this fib too. Price may continue up at the moment before having a nice dip. So a few levels to watch. What you want to be doing is allow this to pull back into a logical area of support, and then look for a lower time frame reversal back up. Don't get caught at the top at the moment, because quite clearly we've gone up, pull back. We're at the profit taking phase here. Allow it to pull back, and then try to get set for the next leg up. Not interested in trying to sell these moves down. just waiting for price to come into the buy area of the fib tool and then see what happens. All right, the Aussie, bit more selling pressure happening on the Aussie today than it has been doing. So what I've been discussing is, are we failing at the significant high point that got formed last year's July? We've actually failed that double top, and we're back below this top here. So for the buyers, if we're going to hold a bullish long-term sentiment and move further up, these highs that we're heading down towards need a hold. So that's at 68.23 and 67.98. There's most definitely the question is, are we failing here really to move back down to where we just came up from? All right, we've got a little bit just above the top of that kind of range. Whereas on the New Zealand dollar, we stopped pretty much at the top. So we just got a fraction above the top of the range. The New Zealand dollar didn't. But, you know, we are actually largely range bound on this weekly chart. And are we failing at the top there to move back down? So the day chart. My dog's just going nuts. So we've been going down. In fact, the daily trend here is still fractionally maybe still up. Higher bottom here. I'm just looking at where the bottoms are. There's no other bottom, so that's a higher bottom to a higher top. So potentially we could be looking at the 62 to 79% area, which this area of support is smack bang in the middle at 67.98. And that could be support to move up. So if you're favoring the buy side of this pair at the moment, then that most definitely would be the buy zone if you're favoring the buy side. This area here, what happens if we come into this area? Do we hold? From a sell side perspective, if we have failed up here at the top and you're much more on the bear side because we're seeing US dollar strength on the index and weakness on the pound dollar, the US dollar, seeing on the New Zealand dollar, then you want to look to 68.71. That's the high here, or the further high up at 68.99. You can see this week, this rally up yesterday got capped ultimately at that area to move down. So today we've already actually done it on the last 4-hour candle. See where we're down here. Then the 4-hour candle came up and rejected 68.71 to come down. Now we could still revisit that area. So that would be the area to watch up here, 68.71 if we get a rally. All right, up here. That's the most logical area. You can see we got above it here and then came down. That's the most logical area to watch if you want to sell a rally. Right, so there is a question, have we topped out or not at the moment? Most immediate intraday trend is down, but the day chart trend is up, so we could just be moving down the range to the lower levels of support. Now, let's get into New Zealand yen. It came down to weekly support here. Didn't quite hold this retracement on the fib tool, but the reality is this could even be classed as a double bottom. And it has moved up. Using that fib tool as is, it's moved up to the 127 extension up here. So it's in its profit taking phase in any event up here. And you should be looking for a pullback to continue the trade up. So just to the day chart, this old weekly area over here offered support here this week. And we're back up to resistance here. So not where you want to be buying into. But the trend here is at the moment higher top, higher bottom. Of course, we could fail here at this resistance, but 4-hour trend is up. I would look to this 4-hour range and look for a pullback within this range to trade to the upside at the moment. Look to the 62.79% zone and look to buy a pullback. All right. All the M pairs are kind of showing you the same structure at the moment. So, you know, try and book the structure at the moment. Might be a little bit futile. New Zealand dollar. All right, so on the weekly chart for the New Zealand dollar, the range is a lot more clearer. You see it all coming from over here. All right, so railroad tracks at the moment on the weekly chart. I actually got short at the top there at 63.65. That line I've got drawn is at 63.69. And I'm looking to trade down to support. Now it needs to get past this weekly area of support at the moment. That could definitely be supports, short term or long term, depending on what the market wants to do. So today chart, you can see it coming down. Day trend has turned down. We've broken below this area of support, coming down to these previous two double tops. Are they going to hold as strong support? So if you're much more bullish New Zealand dollar than I am, because I'm short from the top, that's the buy zone at the moment. If you can see, you're set up to buy at these tops. So that's at 62.21 down to 62.14. Even down to 6,200, support could come in there. But if you want to get short, look, you know, if we do bounce here, look to the broken area of support here. So at 62.54 would be the key area to watch for resistance at the moment. That would be a good area for the sellers to look for their trades. All right. So you can see the 4-hour trend is quite clearly down. $62.54 I said. So 62.54 is only there. We're only 34 pips away from that level. So we could certainly rally back up to there today if we get a bit of volatility from the news later in the day. So it's well worth watching that level up here at 62.54 for a retest today. Now, if you're more bullish, you could be watching this area of support that we're trading into to trade back up if you're bullish long term. But I'm bearish, so I'm not going to be looking to buy down here. But you can have a different viewpoint than me. You may think that this breaking above these double tops here to the left could now be offering very strong support for a continued move up long term, if that's your stance. And as well, this range here, it's worth just drawing a fib in to see where we're at. We're at the 62% area or close to. So that's a logical area to expect support if you're a buyer. And then if you can see you're set up to buy, you're trying to trade up to retest this high up here and break through. Yeah, that's in opposition to what I'm doing, but I don't know if I'm right long term. The buyers could be right long term, but the buyers could just be waiting for price to pull back to that key area of support at the moment and want to trade it up. So there's always two sides of the market. So those two areas to watch. But on the 15, I think selling a rally at the moment. Day trends down, the 4-hour trends down, the 15-minute trends down. So the most immediate kind of getting into the intraday trends, they're all down. The flow's down. All right. Doesn't mean to say though they can't hold here today and they completely reverse all the way back up from that day chart level of support. All right, dollar Canadian. It is starting to put in. I'll just map out the sort of swings here. I've been saying that baby support's coming in here. This is this 62 area from the monthly range. I've been saying that I think we could be bottoming out down here. We've actually put in a higher bottom here now. Moved up, higher bottom. So you could look for a dip intraday within that day chart, starting uptrend, moving up to 4 hour, and just look at the 4 hour. What I'd need to see on the 4 hour is for price to move a bit more yet. I need to see price to break this high here and then look for a dip. All right, so price will need to do something for me. Just want to go to the 15-minute chart. All right, from this low down here, it's the same thing I just showed on the 4 hour chart. That was 1 day's trading, and then we've had another day up to here. So buying a dip, got central pivot point and 62% area down here. So 134.94. In fact, 135.00 down to 134.94. So that's a 6 pip box. That area down there today. If we got back down there today, then you could watch for support to come in. Do you see you've set up to buy? So that would be the 62% level of the 4 hour range. And taking into account, we've got the figure here and the central pivot point in that area, in that 6 pip range. Dollar franc is moving up to higher top here. Still very much range bound. It could still very much come back down. You know, this is very range bound. So with it being range bound, it did come up there, but in a higher bottom. So there. I would now watch for this to come back down to retest this weekly level of support. 64, what's the number? 64.32. You know, trying to get along here when you've got this high here and 2 highs to the left, where we've been rather consolidatory, it doesn't make any sense because potentially we could fail at those highs and then move back down. So then you'd be getting long in the wrong, in the wrong part of the chart. So monitoring this range, keep dragging it up if price moves up. See the 79% level overlaps perfectly with the 84.32 level. That would be the most desirable area to look for a buy at the moment if we're moving up long term. All right. All right, getting into now dollar yen. Just traded up to last month's high, or just fractionally 1 pip or 2 above. All right, I was hoping that this might get a bit of a deep move back down to here, but that's probably now gone. Still worth understanding that strong support down there in case we do revisit that in the this month. But now their charts turned to up. This is coming up to an area of where we might get a bounce, but all these yen pairs are showing an uptrend on the day chart now. 147.289. So I'd be foolish trying to sell $147. It's 147.22. All right. Right, so we just did a bit of a resistance area here. That's actually weekly resistance there, day resistance there. So we might, even if we trade a little bit higher here, be getting ready, for a bit of a retracement before we maybe move up further. Having moved up so aggressively, very aggressively yesterday, you want to buy a dip. You need to be patient. Price keeps moving up, keep dragging that up, and wait for a dip. Now, if you have to wait 2 or 3 days, wait 2 or 3 days for a logical dip to the 62.79% zone. What happens in the zone? Do you see support? Can you see yourself to buy? All right. So very similar story on all these yen pairs. Allow them to have a dip. Now, they might not dip for the next week, but it doesn't make a good risk reward sense or high probability sense to be buying at the top of the move. Look for the dip. Okay, getting into gold. Now, this could actually be putting in a lower top at the moment. Of course, higher time frame trends like the monthly, weekly charts are all up. This is the day chart, but this certainly, if you break this low, is going to put a minor lower top in here. So that's just going to be showing that from a weekly chart perspective, and I was discussing this low on Tuesday, is we may need some correction of this upward move. Doesn't change the long-term trend. So if we're 2 or 3 weeks down here, we could be moving back down to weekly supports at 25.31. Hold there for then the next move up. So we could be seeing a pullback within this longer term range. 79% level is close to that area of support. 62, 79% zones, there, and the level of support's in the middle of it. So daily could well be putting in a lower top here. I'm not keen, if I don't trade gold, but if I was a gold trader, I don't know if I want to get short here, because with it being so strong, even though it puts in a lower top, maybe breaks that bottom, it may just break the bottom and hold and then completely reverse back up because it's in such a strong trend. So trying to be a short seller, but when something's so dominantly in an uptrend, the dips can be very short. The little down trends that you start to see can be very short in nature, and you get short and you get caught on the wrong side of the market. So I would be a lot happier just to allow this to come down a bit. But 4-hour chart, see 4-hour chart, it's got mixed in here. It's higher bottom, lower top. This could get support in here and go straight back up. So if I was a gold trader, I would think on this 4-hour chart at the moment, if I started to see this 4-hour chart once more turn back to up, so it breaks this high, then look to a retracement for a continued move up. All right. It's trying to put a lower top in, but maybe it can't. And it's going sideways on the 4-hour chart now. Maybe it's going to actually flip back to up to continue the trend. So it's a little bit difficult there at the moment on gold, but we have to understand long-term trend is up. We're a little bit overextended. Sometimes when we have such strong trends, any overextended nature just happens to be a little bit of sideways price action for a while, and then we continue up, okay? So don't get too cute about getting aggressively short, I think. I just allow it to have a dip and wait for the first signal that any kind of dip that's been having has ended, an uptrend forms, and then try and trade that uptrend once more, okay? Right, I just want to hop back into the pound, see what that's doing. I actually wanted to go just to Forex Factory. I don't know what's making the pound sell off so much today. All right, so the Bank of Bailey, so they didn't cut rates last month when inflation was back down to about 2.7% or something. My little privacy badger thing isn't letting me see any information here. What does it say? All right, so he's saying here that with the Middle East crisis that's going on at the moment, fearing that oil prices may go up, if that was the case, then of course to keep things a little bit more user-friendly, they could be a bit more aggressive in cutting interest rates if they started to see that, okay, the cost of oil could impact the economy and people. So I guess that's why they're selling off, because the market it's like a red flag to the market. They've gone, He's saying we may be aggressively cutting now, more aggressively. So that leans to the idea that the interest rate of the pound will be lower than the interest rate to the US, which favors a weaker pound dollar. Okay, so that's why we're seeing that sell off. And it's worth just having a look at oil. Oil's been going up last couple of days. It's still relatively cheap though. It's not like it's gone ballistic, but it is just on an uptick at the moment, but it is below all this support here at the moment. But it has come down to a major area of support over here, 64.37. So it's hit a logical area of support. And then the Middle East woes maybe just helping this pick up there. All right. And what's the euro do? Euro's not going down today, really. It's kind of opened around about here. So it's just trading water today. Fractionally lower than it was yesterday on the close. Trading water. And the Aussie definitely a lot more selling going on the Aussie at the moment than over the last few days. All right. So just as a final reminder, the big news event coming out tomorrow will be the US job figures. So if you're in a long-term position, great, but getting in with tight stops in the face of that won't be a great idea. Just worth having a look at just what's coming next week. I've got the interest rate decision for New Zealand next week, Wednesday. Meeting minutes from the FMC Thursday, 4 a.m. US core CPI. So we've got inflation figures, CPI data, and then PPI data Thursday, Friday. So at the end of the week, next week, we will be back to fireworks. Of course, if the inflation data doesn't show weakness and it ticks up, that's going to maybe soften the idea that we're going to get maybe another 50 basis point cuts from the US by the end of the year. There's not an interest rate cut in October because I don't think they have an interest rate cut in October this month, but then November, December, there's possibility of cuts of 25 basis points per month. But if the inflation figure upticks, because it has been actually upticking, so if it keeps upticking, I don't know whether that will help the Fed cut another 50 basis points this year. We'll have to wait and see. So well worth understanding what's happening over the next week. Thursday, Friday, there, inflation figures coming out. All right, so I'll leave you with that. So stay safe in the market. Job figures coming out on Friday. So I'll leave you with all that information from me today. Thanks for your attendance this week. If you want to join me next week, head over to the webinar page. There's a link at the top. And I'll be back on board next Tuesday. Next Tuesday onwards, for me, webinars will be starting at 8 p.m. Sydney time rather than 7 because of daylight saving changes. So take a note of that. And if you want to join me, just register your interest. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Okay. Thank you. And yep, thank you for that. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.